Good evening. I hope everybody had a lovely day today here in Marion, Indiana. It was a beautiful day outside. We were able to get quite a bit done. Jeffrey is still outside, um, finishing to clean the chicken coop. I was able to get outside and assess the health of the garden. And on the front porch, we still have some maple sap boiling down. So I think I'm going to end up bringing that in tonight because it is really just flowing. And I think I'm going to have to use my stove because the little hot plate I'm using is just not powerful enough. So tonight we are going to talk about DIY seasoning in a jar. And I'm going to show you how to make my Italian herb blend using fresh herbs that you can grow in your garden. These are all really easy to grow, and spices that you can make yourself. Now, I have a lot of homemade spice recipes over on the blog, experimentalhomesteader.com, if you want to go over and check that out. But tonight we're going to show you how to do this, and not only how to do it, but we're going to show you how to do it in such a way that you could give these as a gift to someone and they're going to look really nice. Okay, so we're going to start out with a third a cup of salt, and this is not just any salt. This is salt made with the apothecary rose that I grew myself in my garden, and it is sea salt. You're going to need a little jar. This is just a canning jar, and some kind of lid. Now, I like these ball lids because they have shakers on them. But if you don't have this, you can use the metal lid that comes with it. You can use the plain plastic white lids. Well, I'll show you. They look like this, okay? Any kind of lid that you can get. And it doesn't have to be a ball jar. It can be any container that you like. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to dump, this is a third of a cup, not quite, but real close. So I'm going to dump about half of this rose sea salt into my jar. If you don't have this rose, you don't have rose sea salt, don't worry about that. You can use any sea salt, but I do recommend sea salt. Okay, now I have 2 teaspoons of basil, and I'm going to sprinkle that basil on top. Okay. All right, so there we go. And you can kind of see how it's getting layered. Okay, I have a teaspoon of garlic powder. And if you dehydrate your garlic, it is really easy to powder. For those of you that don't have a way to do this, it's okay to use store-bought garlic powder. So you can see what we're getting here. Very nice. Okay, now I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of marjoram. Okay, and I'm going to take a spoon and I'm just going to kind of flatten this a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to add in a half of a teaspoon of chili powder. And this is homemade chili powder that I made myself. So this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to scoop that out. And I'm going to sprinkle that on top. Right, like that. Now that probably is not going to be visible. If I really wanted it to be, I would just turn it over at the edge and do it that way. I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of sage. And when I dry my herbs, I dry them whole just like this. I put them in a canning jar with a lid. And then I use one of these food grade silica gel packets just to make sure that they don't draw any moisture. So I have already pre-measured this sage. And to grind it, I just took my hands and crushed it that way. Very easy. So there's my sage on there. And then I'm going to top it off with some more of my rose sea salt. Okay. And this really is just for effect. Okay. So you can see how very pretty that is. And this would be lovely to give to someone as a gift. Okay. Now for me, what I'm going to do, because I'm going to use this, I'm just going to shake it. Okay, because I want all of these herbs and seasonings to be really well combined. Okay. All right. And so there you go. Now I'm gonna actually dump it in a bowl, and I'm gonna mix it a little bit more because I don't feel like it got really mixed. But this is what the seasoning looks like. Hi, Mandy. Thanks for joining. Okay. And then I'm just going to put this back in. I'm not going to try to do this on camera because I really need to set this jar on my table so I don't make a huge mess. This is the most delightful Italian herb seasoning that I have ever used. It's far better than anything you can buy at the store. And just wonderful. And the same way with my chili powder. All of your homemade seasonings are so much better. Okay, now that's what it looks like back in my jar. I'm going to take this food grade silica gel packet. I'm just going to set it right there on top. I'm going to put my lid on. And we're ready to go. Okay. Like I said, layer it if you want to give it as a gift, if you want it to look really pretty. And if not, don't worry about it. But making your own homemade seasonings is a wonderful way to save money at the grocery store. And they're going to taste so much better than what you can buy. Because you're going to grow this, you're going to dry the herbs whole. That's going to help preserve the essential oils and the flavor in the herbs. And then when you crush them, it's going to be not quite like fresh, but about as close as you're going to get. And you know, I make everything from my own garlic seasoning salt. I make, you know, like I said, my own chili powder. And this is a blend of different peppers and things. Now, if you make chili powder, do not open up whatever you use to crush these with, whether it's a food processor, a coffee grinder, whatever, right away. Because the smell from the dust and stuff that's going to come up is absolutely overpowering. I was trying to look and see if I had this recipe right here, and I do not, it looks like. But it is on my blog, experimentalhomesteader.com. And if you go over to the Crafty Creation section, you know, that's where you're going to find it. Just type in homemade seasoning mixes. And like I said, once you try these, you're not going to want to go back to store-bought. Much more economical, because think of what you would pay for this much seasoning in the store. And it only takes a little bit. If you don't want the salt, you can omit the salt. So that's not an absolute essential part of the recipe. Does anybody have any questions on making your own seasoning mixes or herbs or anything that you'd like to ask me? I'm kind of watching down here in the comments, and because I feel like maybe sometimes I go too fast and people don't get their comments and thoughts in. Okay, well, if not, you can still leave comments under this video. I do go back in and look. We will be reposting this on YouTube tomorrow, so it will be searchable by tomorrow night for those of you that lose it on the Facebook timeline. It would be great if Facebook had searchable for their live video, but they don't yet. So anyway, like I said, that's just, would you be able to put them in frozen cubes? Absolutely, Mandy. Absolutely. If you want to make up these seasoning mixes and use fresh herbs even, you would do your conversion of, you know, instead of the measurements I gave you was for dried herbs. But absolutely, you could put these in butter. You could put these in olive oil. The video is up on YouTube right now. When I did my bone broth tonight and I roasted my bones, I set my bones up above on a grid rack so that all of the oil could drop below into the pan. And then I saved that oil. And I don't know if you've seen them, but they're the little herb savers that you can put your oils and butter and herbs in and put them in the freezer. So I saved those oils off of my bones. And I could have thrown some of these herbs in, and then all I would have had to do was throw that in my skillet or my soup pot or whatever, and it would have been great. So you certainly can. Just if you are going to use them frozen, you know, you need to use butter or olive oil, chicken broth, beef broth, something on them to help the flavors kind of mix together. So, are there any other questions? You're very welcome, Mandy. I'm really glad you said something because sometimes, I have a thought on my mind and I think of it and I feel like, I want some feedback because I really want to know what do you guys want to know. That's really important to me. So I'm very, very glad you asked. And like I said, I do watch my comments, so you can leave the comment below. If you lose it on the Facebook timeline, it will be on YouTube tomorrow. Let me think. My Periscope broadcast from the day before goes up at 1 o'clock. My Facebook broadcast from the day before goes up at 5 o'clock, and these are all Eastern times. And then I'm always on YouTube live at sometime between 10 and 11. I'm really trying to get closer to the 10 p.m. time frame. So anyway, I hope you all have a really, really great weekend. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night.